Welcome to another Train2Game radio production with Danny Palmer.
My name is Emmanuel Lusinchi. I'm the Associate Lead Designer on Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Okay, to begin with, so what does the role of Associate Lead Designer actually involve?
It's basically to kind of have a global view of the design department in general, and to, but a very detailed view, so to know everything that's going on, and to be able to intervene if there's something that we want to make a bit better, or something that we see people get confused about, so we can go and fix that. And we are getting a lot of feedback, of course, from the beta testing and all the testing we've been doing. So it's very important that we can be flexible and have a global view of how we can change things. But sometimes, and so we get really positive feedback. There are things that people really, really like, and it's like, oh, they really like this part of the game. Maybe do we have time to do more of that? Because that's has really positive feedback. So there's this kind of being able to fix things really quickly if needed, or to get more of what people want, and so it's a very flexible position.
So with Star Wars: The Old Republic, it's an MMO. What are the key game design features you have to think about when building the game?
We've been building this game for three kind of people, right? And it's very important to know who you're targeting. We wanted to target. We wanted to make an MMO, so we wanted to target MMO players, so that when they come with a certain preconception of what they want, and so all the positive aspect, we wanted it to be we wanted it to be really big, a big universe to discover, and so on. Things like cooperation, which are raids, to be presence, and all these kind of things. We also wanted BioWare fan, because we are BioWare, that's what we do. We might as well play to our strength. So we wanted BioWare fan to be very at home and to have the same kind of quality of storytelling, not a version of storytelling like bastardized for MMO, but a real BioWare experience with the same depth of choices and story. And we wanted it to be a really good Star Wars game. We wanted to be the Star Wars game, the chance you have to really live in that universe and have a role and a name and a story that make you feel like you're a Padawan and you're becoming a Jedi Knight. That's one of the things you can do. To summarize, we had to really hit the story, but we have also to really hit the Star Wars flavor and to be true to the name. And we really, really, really had to concentrate on it's a massively multiplayer game. So we need players to be able to play together, to have things to do together, and to be rewarded for being together, because that's a very core of a game.
You mentioned the whole Star Wars element of the game, obviously. How difficult was it to combine that narrative and put it into a game and staying true to the Star Wars themes?
Well, that was the easy part, because we've done it before, and Star Wars is a hero journey, which is perfect for a game, especially massively multiplayer games, where it's all about your rise to power and how you have humble origins, maybe, and you become someone, which is a hero journey, which totally works. So that was not hard. It's such a rich universe. It has so much lore, and it's so beloved by everyone, including ourselves. So that was a perfect setting for us. And we had done it before with Knights of the Old Republic, which was a game on the Xbox, which was very well beloved by our fans. So that was the easy part.
And with so many missions and different ways to complete them, how do you cater for that in the different player classes?
Well, again, because we are trying to make it a BioWare games, we knew unlike traditional BioWare games, that we needed really a story that was unique to each class. Because even though, let's say, a smuggler could have some of the same adventure as a Jedi Knight, and indeed in the movies there is some of that, that they have a different story going in the background, right? And Han Solo has to pay off his debt while Luke has to learn about the Force, and we just couldn't say, have this for like 10 minutes at the beginning and then, it's all the same from now on, cheers, you're a Jedi Knight, doesn't matter, you're doing the exact same thing. So we wanted, from the beginning, we knew we had to keep your story going on through the entire time, so that you would see the same events, that these things that are reshaping the galaxy, this conflict that is about to erupt between the Empire and the Republic. Right now they're in a Cold War, but it's not going to last forever, and have a different view of and different role to play in that conflict. So there are things you can do as a group that the entire group experience as a story, but there are things you do for yourself, and it's a different journey for each class.
And how have you combined the traditional BioWare dialogue trees with this multiplayer group play?
Yes, it was a challenge, and for a while we were Daniel Eriksson, the writing director, and myself were like kind of locked in a room and thinking about that. We said we wanted players to be together in a conversation, but how we're going to do it. And the concept we came upon was, if you're in a room full of people and you're trying to, let's say, speak to your boss in a meeting, there's this kind of competition going on, and in the end, 2 or 3 people start speaking at the same time, but they kind of go quiet, and one, kind of win this. And at the same time, we were thinking of that. We were thinking of, rolling for loot in a traditional MMO, which is a mechanic that is artificial, but that people accept, even though it doesn't represent anything. I was like, oh, what if we put it together? And it sounds not that interesting, but I think through iteration, because the first version was what it was, and then we played it and we refined it, everything about BioWare's quality, so you have to work on it many times until you hit it. Is a lot of fun. The multiplayer conversation is a feature that our fans like, and we're very happy because it was a big risk. Everything that is completely new, never done by anyone before, is always a bigger risk than making your own take on something that already exists.
Speaking of new, can you tell us a bit about Hutball?
Hutball. Okay, so Hutball is something, not the exact game, but the concept is something we wanted for a long time, literally from the beginning of the game, to at some point have the Republic as empire meeting in a place where there was a imposed truth that they don't like but that they have to live with. And we developed Nar Shaddaa to be the perfect place for that. The setting controlled by the Hutt, neutral, but they are together, they really don't like each other. And so that was for the story side. We really wanted this kind of thing to happen where they are together, they don't like it, but they are together. And we also wanted, for technical reason, to have some PvP that involved the same faction fighting the same faction, like Republic versus Republic, for example. And that's just because even if the server has an imbalance, there are more Republics than Empire, and if it was always one against the other, a lot of Republic players in that case will be frustrated because they have nobody to fight. So if you have at least one your war zone where they can fight among themselves, then you keep the ball rolling. You keep players that want to play against other players doing just that. So we had the concept of player versus, side versus side, and we had this neutral zone. So let's put it, that's the best place to do it. And Nar Shaddaa is this very seedy place of casinos and very violence and all corruption, and a blood sport for the entertainment of the mass made sense, and it all come back together. And the most important reason for all of this is that it's fun. And if we did it and it was not fun, we just throw all of that story and concept to the window and do it again. But it turned out it's a very fast, and as a sport, it has also this tactic to it and this strategy, which are really, really fun.
You mentioned earlier testing of the game. How important is betas and community testing to a game like the Old Republic?
Oh, so it's a funny thing. You have to have a vision of what the game is. But you have also, as a designer, you have to recognize that players play the game the way they want, not the way you want. And so sometimes they do things, why are they doing? Well, they are doing it. So that's how do we react? And you have to be flexible. You have to take into account the feedback you get, because that's how it's going to be. You better deal with it. But you cannot lose track of what you want to accomplish with that game. So there are feedback where people want the game to be easier. The feedback where the people want the game to be harder or different or this or that. And you need to extract the important thing from the feedback and do it, and then the player really they listen to us. And yes, we don't listen to everything, but we do listen. Generally, we have a lot of things we want in the game, and in proportion how much of what we want, and the feedback allows us to maybe tweak this priority, this is very important to the player, maybe we can have more and sooner. And they don't really like that, so maybe we deprioritize it. So feedback is key. a game, an MMO is a service. It's not a one-time purchase, and how you bought it today, it's a service. It's an ongoing service. You have to please your customer. And sometimes you have to please them in ways they don't like, because you see the big picture of why it's better for them to do it this way.
And finally, how did you get into the games industry, and what advice would you give to those looking to get into it?
Oh, that's a really good question. I get into the game industry by playing Neverwinter Nights, which was a BioWare game that came with a tool set. And I enjoyed the game, but I enjoyed the tool set much more. So I was playing with the tool set, realizing that was more fun than my job. So I contacted BioWare, went to their website. We are always hiring designers and artists. So if you're passionate about something, prove it, contact BioWare, and you'll get a job. If you're good enough, you'll get a job. Absolutely.
Great, thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks.
For more information, www.train2game.com.